now it is my great pleasure to welcome Jim Gallagher, who's going to be talking to us about honoring our ancestors.
Morning, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Jim Gallagher. My Japanese name is Genjo because I'm a Zen monk. Not dressed like that today, but that's what I am. The reason I want to talk about our ancestors today, the West is missing something somewhere that Asia is not, as a matter of fact. In the West, at least as far as I see, we tend to be a throwaway culture. Unfortunately, we also throw away where we came from. In my case, I'm Irish, 100% Irish. And we tend, especially America, to throw things away. Nothing has any value once it's gone. And unfortunately, we treat our ancestors like that. Now, for those of you that don't know, in Buddhism, there is no supreme being, there's no God, so to speak. So in Asia, they actually value their ancestors above all. In China, it's a basic Confucian tenet to honor your ancestors. And it's that way all over Asia. And in America, if someone dies, shh, don't tell the children. Don't say that word. Don't do this. Don't do that. No, Johnny, you can't come. We're going somewhere. We tend to do that with death too. In Asia, it's not like that. So let's go back to ancestors. I got off topic already there. So in Asia, the ancestors are revered, for want of a better word. In Japan, which is the only country I can speak with any expertise on, I lived there several years, both as a Zen monk and as what I call a civilian. So in Japan, every house has what's called a bhutsudan, an ancestral altar. And it's not huge. It's not some huge thing like mine here. It's basically maybe the size of a kitchen cabinet, something like that. And anytime, you know, Johnny got in college, you go to the bhutsudan and you offer incense and you tell your relatives, Johnny got in college. Isn't that cool? That kind of thing. So the bhutsudan in Japan is in every home. Doesn't matter how poor or how rich. And anytime something significant happens, the person goes to the altar and announces it to their ancestors, what's happened. So that's the common everyday occurrence in Japan. Once I got into the Zen thing, the Zen Buddhism thing, I have one at my house. It's in my office. It's pretty simple. It's about the size of a kitchen, where I got that from. And I have an incense bowl and I leave flowers there weekly and that kind of thing. And it's become my habit to do that. Now, one of the reasons I have to leave quick today is my granddaughter is having a baby. I'm going to a baby shower. So the first thing I did when I found out was run to my family altar and say, Mom, Dad, I'm going to be a great grandfather. Now I'm depressed. A great grand. Never mind. Anyway, so that's the first thing I did was run to the altar. Mom, Dad, and it's a boy, by the way. Finally, my family is full of girls. God, I was the only one that bet when she announced she was pregnant and she knew what it was. I was the only one to say boy. Everybody else said girl. Past history. Anyway, I'm getting off topic again. So yeah, I ran to my family altar and did it. So now the puzzle you folks might have is in Zen, we don't much believe in spirits and that type of thing. So who am I talking to? I'm talking to myself. It is really what I'm doing. But I'm reminding myself where I came from. My grandparents were immigrants from Ireland. My mother and father were both 100% Irish, as I am. So I'm remembering my past and where I came from. And I know there's a saying somewhere, if you don't remember your past, how do you know where you're going in the future? So yes, I honor my ancestors. And it keeps them upmost in my mind, where I came from, where all this started. Now in Japan, once a year, has anybody seen the Karate Kid? It's the only place you ever saw a festival called Obon. If you remember the lanterns floating out on the water, I'll get to that in a second. Obon is a 3-day festival every year, matter of fact, next month, in which all of Japan worships and honors their ancestors. And it's a big festival and the whole thing. So what they do is they light a lantern and put it on their house to welcome their ancestors back for this festival. And that's what the lantern is for, which you guys have seen in movies. You just didn't see where those came from. So the first day of the festival, they go to their grave sites. By the way, 99.9% of Japanese are cremated. They're not buried. So what their monument looks like is usually tall granite about that big, probably about that big around, with naturally Japanese names on it. Gee, I wonder why. They go and they polish the grave, they clean it, they leave offerings of flowers and that kind of thing. That's usually what's done the first day. On the second day, there's a huge festival where there's Japanese traditional dancing with taiko drums. You've all seen the taiko drums, right? I love those things. Anyway, and there's a big festival and there's food and there's everything there is. And at their home altars and their bhutsudan, they offer food, flowers, incense. Now, the reason I should say where the Obon or the Buddhist festival came from, by legend, one of Buddha's followers had great mystical powers. So he wanted to see after his mother died, what happened to her. So he used his spiritual powers and saw that his mother was in the hungry ghost realm. A hungry ghost is very Buddhist. It's a Buddhist thing. What a hungry ghost is, it has a huge stomach and a pencil thin neck. So it can never get enough food. It'll never be satisfied. Excuse me. Which, by the way, as a side note, is all of us, by the way. Can never get enough. But anyway, so she was in basically hell, let's put it that way, hanging upside down. So the Buddha told his disciples, go and offer food, incense, and all that to feed the hungry ghost, to get food to her. And it worked. Shazam. So on the bhutsudan, they place all kinds of food, flowers, incense, and all that type of thing. On the third day is what you saw in the Karate Kid. Now, in landlocked areas with no lakes or rivers or anything like that, they take that lantern they had hung up at their house, they go back to the grave site and they put the lantern there to guide the spirits back to wherever. In place with water, the Karate Kid, they take those same lanterns and they float them out on the water to release their spirits to go back wherever that is. They never explain that. Anyway, to release the spirits. So that's the Obon festival. We don't have anything like that. We maybe have Father's Day and Mother's Day, but that's not really remembering our ancestors. That's remembering our father and mother. So why do I love this so much? So I'm afraid I have to tell you the sad story of my life. I'll keep it short. My parents were both alcoholics, raging alcoholics. I have no memory of anything before the age of about 14 or 15. I have no memory of my childhood, except for, guess what? Bad things. So I was walking with my father, probably to a bar. That's usually where he went. And he either passed out, fell, or something. My memory's hazy. And he fell down and knocked all the teeth in his mouth out. And he never had teeth the rest of his life. Why? I don't know. But then we lost our house. We lost everything. My next memory is we had to live above a bar. And I slept on the floor on a mattress. And I remember those stairs so well going up to that place. Good news, my father sobered up and went back to work. And we were poor our whole lives though, because he, came back AT&T lineman, telephone lineman. So, and then my mother never stopped. I still, once again, the only thing I can remember is finding a bottle of vodka in the linen closet. So long story short, she literally died of being an alcoholic. Her stomach burst and she died like in 5 minutes. The ambulance never had a chance to get there. And then my father went back to drinking after we lost my mother. I try to keep this short. And then I enlisted in the military. No offense to anybody, I enlisted during Vietnam in the Air Force because I didn't want to be a Marine. Sorry, Marines. Sorry, I was too much of a wuss to be a Marine. Anyway, and I never saw my father again. So, and I held on to this hatred, well, you can imagine. And then I started Buddhist practice. And my first Zen teacher, a woman, don't know why, Joan Halifax Roshi. Roshi means Zen master. This practice gave me my gratitude back. Why? Why should I be grateful to them? Well, I inherited my father's, believe it or not, brilliant mind. I'm a mathematician and an engineer. And what did they give me that I should be so grateful for? This, life. They gave me life. There's no bigger gift than that, even if they messed up a little bit in the other. And I realized they were people with problems. That's all they were. And suddenly my love for my parents came back. So ancestral worship is what's called in Asia, but honoring our ancestors reminds us of the gifts we got from our past ancestors, my grandfather, my grandmother, before that, everything. So to me, it improved my life, so to speak. I don't carry a grudge anymore. I told you, I go and tell them everything that happens to me, good and bad. But that's why I think ancestral worship, if you can call it that, is so important. So during the Obon festival, all the Zen people in America do guess what? The same thing, the same exact thing. We give food, flower offerings, etc., to our ancestors, and remember them. And remember what they gave us. I mean, my grandparents coming from a foreign country, coming here, and I'm sure most of you folks know that the Irish were those damn invaders. Sound familiar? Those damn invaders. I can't believe Irish people forget that. I still have a sign. I found an antique store. Irish need not apply. I'm serious. It's a real sign. Irish need not apply for jobs and things like that. How Irish Americans don't remember that when it comes to Hispanics, I don't know, but that's beside the point. So worship our ancestors brings us back to our history, where we came from. Because of my father, I was the first college graduate in my family because of the brains he gave me. Now, he also gave me alcoholism. I'm an alcoholic, by the way. But anyway, that's a gift I didn't like. But I stopped blaming and started remembering where I came from. I actually went and got my Irish citizenship because my grandparents were Irish. I could get my citizenship. So I hold an Irish citizenship. So worshiping our ancestors takes us back to where we came from. And remember what I just said about Irish need not apply? What did that teach me? That Hispanics were not invaders. No more than my grandparents were when they came to this country. And no more welcome than my grandparents when they came to this country. But it also shows me where I got my work ethic. He worked his way out of it. And my father, once he sobered up, worked his way to where we could live in an apartment. Not a ritzy one, but an apartment. So I believe looking back at our ancestors shows us where we came from, why we are the way we are, right? I'm an alcoholic because my parents were alcoholics. So I believe that the West ought to learn a little bit. I'm not saying you have to go crazy But once in a while, maybe once a year, maybe the anniversary of one of your parents' death or something like that, to go back and say, this is where I came from. These are the people that made me. So honor your ancestors once in a while, or at least give them a thought. You know what I mean? On a beautiful sunset or something, say, wow, Grandpa, look at this. This is awesome. That's all I got to say.